So hello there, everybody. It's Kate Kunkel. So again, thanks so much for joining me here to bust some myths about your brain. What are we going to learn today? First, we're going to bust 3 of the most common misconceptions about your brain because these can be very dangerous, actually, if you believe them. How are you going to recognize that your brain could be at risk? There are many symptoms that could be dementia or cognitive decline, but they could also be something else that is easily remedied. And at the very end, we're going to share the biggest risk factor for developing cognitive decline. And no, it is not genetic. And we're also going to share powerful tricks for improving your memory and enhancing learning. These are things you are going to be able to use right away. So why is this so important? Because frankly, dementia is a big problem for many people and it's getting bigger. For women, after the age of 60, we're twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's as we are to develop breast cancer. And we know how many people have breast cancer. We're also more than twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's as our male counterparts. And that's not just because we live longer. And the disease can progress twice as quickly in women. There are many reasons for this. Part of it has to do with stress, how our bodies handle stress. There are many reasons for it, but the point is we need to be vigilant, extra vigilant. But everybody does actually, because look at these troubling stats. This is for everyone, men and women. 5.5 million Americans, 500,000 Canadians. There are 50 million people worldwide with dementia. Now, that was a year and a half or 2 ago because that's when the last statistics were available. So I'm sure it's much higher. But look what we're looking for in 2030 and 2050. The big problem is right now we have a serious problem with social isolation. I don't even like to use the word social isolation. It's isolation. And social connectivity, being with others, is essential for human brain health. For everybody's brain health, animals too. If we do not have the ability to hug, to touch, to talk, we risk dementia. We risk serious mental health issues. And mental health issues lead to dementia. So we could have a serious problem coming up shortly. And I think it's something we all need to be aware of and do our best to counteract it as much as we can. Yeah, so if we don't understand the real reason for brain health issues, and there are many of them, it's really hard to protect yourself. We need to understand the genesis of memory problems and brain fog. And each of us has unique risk factors. And if we understand what those are, then we can better handle everything that comes at us with the right information. So why do you trust me? Why do you care what Kate Kunkel has to say about this? Who am I? Well, up in the upper left corner, that's me and my mom, Inez, when she was looking after me when I was a baby. The bottom right is me looking after my mom, Inez, in the last few months of her life. She forgot how to eat, so we had to feed her. It was like having a baby again. And her diagnosis 11 years ago set me on a path that I am sharing with you now because it's important for all of us to understand this does not have to be. Nobody has to end up like Mama did. My background is very different. I'm a harpist, I'm a sound therapist, I've done harp therapy, I'm a Reiki master. I have all kinds of things in my background, but perhaps for this purpose, the thing that has held me in best stead is my ability to research. I was a paralegal for many years, and I had to do a lot of research. And that has really helped me as I've learned what it is that causes dementia, how we can prevent it, and I was able to institute that for my own life and to help others. And that's why I'm here. I have kind of a unique perspective on this, and I want to share it with you because my fervent hope is that nobody has to go through this if they can avoid it in any way. So the first myth we're going to address is that brain function naturally declines as you get older. You know, people make jokes about old timers and having a second childhood. But honestly, folks, that is not normal. And it's not okay to struggle communicating or planning or remembering. You know, years ago, it was assumed that the death of neurons, those are the cells that transmit signals through the brain, is a common part of aging. But we now know there is little evidence of this. While the brain does tend to get smaller as we get older, that can be a function of many things, and it does not mean you have to lose function. In fact, I'm sure you know many elderly people who are very quick-witted and have amazing memories. There are many other factors besides age that come into play. It includes nutrition, mental health, and we're going to go over that later. But the bottom line here is just because we get old doesn't mean our brain has to get old. Myth number 2, brain games. We've been told that the brain is neuroplastic and brain games work out the brain and ward off mental decline. So there are a couple of companies that got into big trouble for claiming that their games or platforms protected your brain and made you smarter. And while brain games are good, there are caveats to their benefits. Firstly, plasticity is real. Our brains can grow and change, but just playing games doesn't guarantee protection. You have to have new information. And for games especially, it's best if they are used in an environment with guidance and in the company of others. Also, it must be something that is novel, something new. So if you've done crosswords all your life, playing crosswords or doing crosswords are not going to improve the plasticity of your brain. You need to learn something else. Knitting, sewing, doing some other kind of word game. Same with Sudoku. If you do that all your life, just continuing it is not going to keep your brain active because it becomes normal. You have to do something new. And the biggest myth, that's going to come up at the end as well. We'll get to that in a minute. But now I'd like to cover what the symptoms are that could indicate that you're heading down the road to dementia. But the symptoms that we have here don't necessarily mean that that is your end result. It's very important to be aware of what these symptoms can actually mean. So let's start with the most common one, memory loss. Now, only certain types of memory loss are actually connected to dementia. So if this is an issue for you or someone you love, check out what else it could be. Memory loss is related to things like sleep apnea. The lack of sleep and oxygen to the brain can impact your spatial navigational memory, and that's the thing that makes it difficult to remember important information, things like where you put your keys. So why can memory loss happen besides dementia? Well, it could be a vitamin deficiency, especially vitamin B12. It could be a reaction to medications. Stress is it has a huge impact on our ability to remember things. So before you get worried or you think that you're sliding down that memory loss hole, it's very important to eliminate these other things as causes, because if you correct them, you can probably improve your memory right away. Another symptom of dementia or possible dementia is a slower thought process. Now, from childhood to adolescence, our speed of thinking is relatively stable up until about middle age. From then on, it can start to decline. Now, that could be because of regular old wear and tear of the white matter in the brain, and that means that the speed of information transfer along axons, which is the connection between cells, slows down. So that means mental processing speed can decrease. But again, that doesn't have to be a symptom of dementia, and it doesn't have to happen. The slowing down can be caused by diabetes, very common, high blood pressure, smoking, and there are other vascular risk factors. So what happens there is it wears away the blood vessels feeding the white matter in the brain. And then another cause, which is very common for a slower processing speed, is head trauma. And a lot of people don't even know or recognize that they did have head trauma that can cause this problem. It's really important to go back into your history and figure out if there was some kind of a brain injury. After all, our brains are very soft, but our skulls are very hard, and an impact, even one that doesn't seem that serious, can cause damage. This is very common these days. It's called a fog because it literally feels like your mind has become cloudy when you try to concentrate. People complain about feeling spaced out and mentally slow, like they're completely exhausted. It can even become difficult to make a decision, something as simple as what to have for dinner. Other symptoms of brain fog are depression, disorganized thinking, being easily distracted. But these are not necessarily symptoms of cognitive decline or dementia. Oftentimes, brain fog is due to stress, and an excellent way to clear it is meditation, and we're going to cover much more of that in a bit. But it can also be due to gut issues or medications, so it's important not to just let it go. Figure out where that's coming from, because you don't want to let it continue and get harder to correct. So while poor concentration, number 4 here is, while poor concentration is usually considered one of the symptoms of dementia, it can too also be caused by other factors like high fever, dehydration, again with the vitamin deficiency. It can be a reaction to medicines or problems with the thyroid gland. Again, a minor head injury can also contribute to this. Emotional issues are also common causes of the inability to concentrate. This is a big problem for many seniors. It's a big problem for many of us right now with everything that's going on in the world. Loneliness, worry, lack of support, and feeling like you don't have any reason to be here. These are common causes of the inability to concentrate. So it's best to look after these, get treatment, get help. Don't just let it continue, because the longer you let it go, the more it can actually impact your brain. Now, this is very interesting. The loss of sense of smell is actually a pretty accurate predictor of the potential to develop dementia later on. Several studies have connected this, even though it is not used as a diagnostic tool. It's not something that they have in their packet of diagnostic tools. However, if you're aware that you have difficulty smelling, it's a powerful tool to see what else is going on in your brain and do whatever you can to negate any contributors of the cognitive decline, like stress or poor diet, lack of exercise, improper sleep. Those are all things that can contribute to this. So there's another myth that we're going to dispel in a bit, but right now, let's get to the positive. Let's get to 3 things that we can do right now to enhance your brain. So music, this is my thing, I gotta tell you. Get more music into your life. There are so many reasons for this, not the least of which it helps with anxiety and depression. So singing or playing an instrument are powerful because people who make music tend to have a strong connection between the right and left hemispheres of the brain. This can also lead to more cognitive reserve, which also comes from continual learning and curiosity. Dancing, of course, is one of the best forms of exercise there is, so that is also an enjoyable way of getting more music into your life. The second tool is mindfulness. You know, most of us go through life almost on autopilot. We get up and do our morning routine without even thinking what we're doing, without even paying attention. How often have you gone through that and not really remembered what you did? Did you brush your teeth? Or we eat our food without actually tasting it. It's just fuel. But eating, the food that we eat burns much more efficiently and does our body so much more good if we eat mindfully. So do that, practice that. Take a strawberry or an orange or anything and just savor it, the smell, the texture, the taste, how it feels going down your throat. That's a powerful mindfulness exercise and something you can do anytime. When you go for a walk, do it mindfully. Don't just listen to music or a podcast. Pay attention to the air, the sounds, how your feet are moving, the crunch of gravel, if you happen to be walking barefoot, which is really good, grounding, how does that feel in your toes? Mindfulness is a very, very powerful thing that we can do to protect our brains. Now, I promised to get to the most dangerous myth, and here it is. Once damage is done to your brain, that's it. There's no hope. But if you believe that, then you likely also believe that there's nothing you can do. And then what do? Are you going to give up? You know, I hear that a lot when people are diagnosed with dementia. Their doctors advise them or their families to just do what you can to improve quality of life. What? Just do what you can? No, excuse me. I'm not just going to work on quality of life. I'm going to see if I can't do something to reverse, at least slow it down. Can we cure it? Probably not, but we can certainly slow it down. I don't accept this idea of do what you can to improve quality of life, and I hope you don't either. Now we're going to get into some pretty incredible images from Dr. Amen's work. I am studying with Dr. Daniel Amen. He's most famous for something called Spect Imaging. This is single photon emission computed tomography, which is not important to remember. Basically, what it does, it can provide 3D information of damage, activity, and blood flow in the brain. So look at this. This is a brain that had it still does have frontotemporal dementia. It's a lady. She was a patient of Dr. Amen's. Look at all this damage here. Look what happened after 10 weeks. It's smoothing out. Those gaps are beginning to fill. Now, you know, when you would initially see this scan, you'd probably be scared silly. How can I fix that? But this patient was put on a protocol that includes all the things I talk about: diet, exercise, meditation, working on sleep, mindfulness. Look at the difference in just 10 weeks. You know, the brain is actually regaining function, blood flow, and energy. And she's not alone. Let me tell you, there are lots of cases like this in Dr. Amen's library. Here's another one. This fellow was a football player, and he had damage basically everywhere from brain trauma. Now, you can see it took quite a while, but there was so much damage everywhere. But you can see that with diet, exercise, supplements. He did meditation. There were other interventions. Much of the brain function, his blood flow, and capacity improved. So you can see that even with physical trauma, which can trigger dementia, there is hope for improvement. So all of this is to show you that we do have control over our brains. We don't have to raise the white flag. There's always something we can do, and everything we do is better than nothing. Let me repeat that. Everything we do is better than nothing. Is it easy? Heck no. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the epidemic of dementia that's afflicting the planet right now. It is possible to make it better. And the two things I shared earlier, music and mindfulness, are a good start. But an even more powerful tool, and this is number 3 in our toolbox, meditation. Studies have shown that people who meditate regularly can improve their daily lives in many ways, and it only takes 20 minutes per day. Now, you can start with 2 minutes, you can start with 5 minutes. In Tune Up Your Brain, I give you exercises that first just take a moment, and then we move up to 5 minutes, and then you can't even believe how quickly it happens that you can actually sit and meditate and improve your brain in 20 minutes a day. Did you know that regular meditators actually have bigger brains, and they have more cognitive reserve, which is essential. If anything does happen to brain, if you have more cognitive reserve, then you have less chance of having a problem develop into dementia. So no, music, meditation, and mindfulness, that's not all there is to it. You know, if you're going to recover from traumatic injuries or damage like you saw in that slide with Alzheimer's or frontotemporal dementia, no, music, meditation, and mindfulness are not going to fix it completely. You still need a better diet. You need to exercise. You need the support of family and friends, and you need a spiritual practice of some kind. That does not mean a religious practice. That means to feel like you have purpose in your life, to express gratitude and generosity. All of these things are important to your brain.
So how do we achieve a better brain? Well, you can start by joining me in 8 weeks for a better brain. In this intense personal coaching program, you'll be nurtured body, mind, and spirit as you learn and incorporate the secrets to improving your memory, having more energy, and feeling physically stronger and healthier. You'll learn the best foods to power up your brain and how to incorporate them in your diet with delicious meal plans and recipes. You'll also get an exercise program to help you become stronger and have more energy. And you'll learn how to nurture neuroplasticity to improve your memory and enjoy new experiences. To learn more, click the button below to set up a free personal consultation. It's never too early to look after your brain, but it can become too late.